Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, a highly anticipated free roam addition to the franchise. The game has gotten, well, mixed reviews since its release in late 2021. Some people are satisfied and really excited about the direction of the franchise. However, a lot of FNAF fans, especially those who came before the wave of new fans from Security Breach, were pretty worried once the hype died down. What does this mean for the franchise? Is this a glimpse into the future of Five Nights at Freddy's? And, most importantly, why was this game seemingly not scary? This is how Security Breach has ruined the horror of FNAF. Now before you go to the comments saying, "Peekip, I can't believe you'd say something like that," let me address the elephant, or in FNAF related terms, the DJ Music Man in the room. Security Breach doesn't ruin the horror of the previous games that came before it. What I mean is that Security Breach severely diminishes the horror factor of FNAF as a franchise. What started as a small indie project by a game dev who was just about to give up, became an entire franchise spanning over 11 games and staying a cultural icon for almost 9 years. This franchise has grown to have books, t-shirts, Funko Pops, plushies, you name it. But throughout it all, FNAF as a franchise has maintained one core aspect: horror. The terrifying jump scares, creepy animatronics, and an incredibly confusing lore. Like seriously, so much lore. That in itself is terrifying. However, Security Breach took all of this and chucked it off the roof of the Pizzaplex. I'll explain why. Ah yes, the ever-increasing horror for kids genre that some games fall into. Unfortunately, Security Breach is one of those games. Now, I'm not going to explain the concept of how Mascot horror is dying too much. Believe me, there are so many other videos about that already. But I'll at least explain what I mean by saying the term horror for kids. Horror for kids means that games will have bright, colorful, easily recognizable characters that maybe look a little bit scary. I'm looking at you, Rainbow Friends, Poppy Playtime, and Garten of Banban. It also, by targeting a younger audience, drives off older players who might be interested. Because believe me, the day I play Garden of Banban, Scott Cawthon will give us a full-blown book explaining the entire FNAF lore. Unfortunately, the glam rock animatronics fall into this category. Real question, how many times have you seen Glam Rock Freddy or the other glam rock animatronics in the back rooms with like 700 other scary characters? The thing that made FNAF 1 through 6 scary was that it created tension, a fear of the unknown. The feeling of being trapped in a claustrophobic office with only some doors and a flashlight to stop the killer animatronics from jump scaring you. Ultimate Custom Night and Help Wanted are a bit less scary in some aspects, partially because they aren't anything new and we know what to expect. But boy does Security Breach shake all this too and chuck it off the Pizzaplex again. Now the concept of a free roam FNAF game has been highly desired for a long time, ever since the release of FNAF 2 in November of 2014. Some fan games, like The Joy of Creation, are able to capture the potential of a free roam FNAF game really well. However, Security Breach fails to replicate that same FNAF vibe. The Pizzaplex is just too big, too bright, too colorful, and it's easy to see the animatronics from like a mile away. This just isn't FNAF. If this was a new franchise with absolutely nothing to lose, this wouldn't be a big deal. However, this is Five Nights at Freddy's we're talking about, a franchise highly praised for its horror. Security Breach also brought in a massive amount of new fans into the franchise. These people are going to see Security Breach and then be completely confused when they see the rest of the games. The game has almost nothing in common that ties it to the previous games. Other than some artifacts from previous locations and good old Willie Afton returning for like the 900th time, this game could be seen as a standalone title. And I wouldn't have an issue with this if the game was scarier. Instead of me just casually walking around the Pizzaplex, easily avoiding Vanny and the animatronics, I could be running for my life, actually feeling terrified. One exception to this is the endoskeleton chase segment. That part was perfect in my opinion. The feeling of being trapped in a dark, tight space with dozens of actually creepy looking endoskeletons chasing you, that feeling with that there's only one way out and that you can't call Freddy. You're forced to pay attention and to be careful. And yeah, sure, the mechanic of the endos moving only when you're not looking is not a new mechanic at all, but it feels like something from a FNAF game. However, the grand finale of the game, the boss fight against Burntrap, is just so lame. Haha, I press button and purple guy gets burned again. What a great boss fight. Like, seriously. While it's nice that the other glam rocks attack you in a withered state, and the blob tries to snag you from vents and cracks in the room, there's no sense of fear. It just becomes a chore, and it's more annoying than anything, especially when Freddy starts to spin like a helicopter or just straight up disappears. And that's another issue with the game, the countless glitches. While I do have to give credit to Steel Wool, the team behind the creation of this game, there are just so many glitches. Roll the clip. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The constant glitches in this game really do take away from the scare factor that this game is supposed to have. Other FNAF games were a lot smaller in size and were created by one person. However, they worked perfectly and felt, in a sense, real. On the other hand, if I see that Vanny, the only human antagonist in the game, is running into a wall, it really feels less like a FNAF game and more like something you'd find on the mobile app store or something like that. Not to throw dirt on Steel Wool, but gee whiz dude, there are so many bugs. The only thing I'm going to be scared of is if my game crashes during the final part of the game where I can't save. The game is just not immersive like its predecessors, which is one of its biggest flaws. Finally, let's talk about how Security Breach could affect the future of the franchise. The only piece of FNAF news that we've had lately is a teaser for a DLC for Security Breach. Oh yeah, there's a whole movie coming out this October. That's pretty neat. But in regards to how FNAF will go moving forward, I can't say that I'm not concerned. I, as well as a lot of other longtime FNAF fans, are worried that FNAF games in the future will follow the open world gameplay that Security Breach has given us. After what we've seen from Security Breach, there doesn't seem to be a logical way to go back to the traditional point-and-click games of the past. While Steel Wool has gone on the record to say that the Ruin DLC will be focusing more on making the game scarier, there's still a lot of doubt, as the horror we've seen from Steel Wool in the past hasn't exactly been all that scary. The future of FNAF seems like it will continue to appeal to kids, and that's a big issue for the majority of fans who have seen this franchise grow from a small indie game in 2014. There's no real recovery here, as much as I want there to be. The bar has been raised, and I don't think many people are happy about where that bar ended up. However, only time will tell what will become of Five Nights at Freddy's.